This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath on the map Small Town, USA for the third place match, the bronze match between the pink GDI in the top right-hand corner. This is Green Zero. And as the green, of course it's GDI, it's the mirrors only tournament. This is Drive. Yes, welcome to the third place match. This video is indeed third place plus finals, so I decided to kick it off with the third place match, and we'll see how this goes. Although, if this comes at the end of the video, it means the third place match. Maybe you just skip it entirely. Anyways, it's going to be one video, one way or the other. By the way, the tournament organizer for this, Guaspari, in the comments of, I believe, the quarterfinals, mentioned that the feedback was pretty good for this tournament, and he's thinking about doing, I think he said 3 sub-factions, so instead of it being GDI, Nod, Skren, it would be like Steel Talons, Black Hand, Reaper 17, something like that, and then do a third tournament, which is the last 3 sub-factions, or the last 3 sets, and so you'd get, you know, Zocom versus Marked of Kane versus Traveler, whatever it is. Anyways, it seems like Guaspari may be doing a similar concept, just slightly different rule set in the future, which would be pretty great to see, and I think it would be a lot of fun because some of the matches, especially the quarterfinals, little samey, little safe, but we got into the semifinals, and the matches were overall pretty fantastic. Really entertaining, really fun to watch. And GDI, Green Zero, excuse me, goes to the south, Drive goes to the north. So nothing too crazy right out of the bat from either one of these guys. And I mean, it's Small Town, USA. This is not the most popular map, but it is one of the original maps that has sort of survived. I mean, people don't play it as much as they play some of the other ones, but I feel like in the last 2-3 years, Tiberium Rift, aka Twisted Rift, has gotten more playtime than actual original tournament Rift. And, alright, so from Green Zero, he drives partway, he redeploys his MCV, he gets out a barracks and a command post, but for Drive, it's going to be a second war factory, and of course, this is one of those maps where you have vision of your opponent. With these buildings, you get so much scouting information, and Green Zero trying to hide that airfield in the north. Does Drive actually see it? And yes, it looks like this Pitbull is going to get a very good look at that airfield. The jig is up. The first Orca even takes a bit of damage, inconsequential, but damage nonetheless. And I think it's going to be either AA batteries or Pitbulls from pretty much here on out. But Drive needs to get some anti-air on the ground. He needs to get it up and running soon, unless he genuinely thinks that this is going to be a fake-out Orca, where you build an airfield in one Orca, and then you just hope that the guy over-responds. But either way, this game not going to be a normal match. It is cleaning up into, it is turning into a pretty wild, aggressive game off of just one base, as neither one of these players is heading for their expansion. Actually, Green Zero resetting up at his expansion, but Drive keeping his MCV deployed close to his main. APCs, rocket squads, and Orcas all coming in for Green Zero. He's going to be harvester hunting. He's going to get one for free, and that's going to be an easy kill. The APC as well is going to go down, and maybe one Orca gets eliminated. A slingshot picks up the last bits of health as 2 Orcas explode, and Green Zero gets an APC and 1 harvester, but that harvester was full of Tiberium. So Green Zero getting some value, but is it going to be enough? If he plops down a refinery over here, okay, that might be enough. That 1 harvester and this super delay on the natural expansion of Drive may be enough for Green Zero to roll this into an advantage for the mid to late game. Slingshots take some more shots at those Orcas, and the slingshot actually goes down. I think there is another slingshot in the mix, but no, I don't actually see it. Pred APC moving out through the middle of the map. I thought I saw some Grenadier squads. That might have been Green Zeros as he packed one along for the ride, but okay, no, there it is from Drive. He is here to try and clear out these buildings. It'd be funny if he jumped into this building right next to a Grenadier squad of Green Zero, and at the same time, these Grenadiers trying to eliminate each other, and they will kill each other off almost as Green Zero gets the actual kill there. Orca's coming out from Drive and going to be used to clear those buildings, somewhat surprisingly, as Drive taking some damage on his MCV nearly gets caught by the forces of Green Zero, and Green Zero poking in here. He's going to be able to get a transferring Harvester, peels away the weakened Orcas, and saves every single one of them. Perfect control there by Green Zero as Drive long-distance mining automatically from that field on the right with a couple of those harvesters. Green Zero going to be potentially under threat. No, he's got a tech center over at this location and a reclamator hub on the way. Drive inadvertently going to be scouting this in a perfect amount of time. At the same time, Drive moving through the middle of the map. He has got to do something about this game that Green Zero is playing. All gas, no brakes kind of thing coming out from Green Zero. Drive has been defeated. He doesn't even play it out anymore. That is the end of game number 1, and Green Zero pulling out all the stops to crush Drive in this first map. Small Town USA is a weird one, and that was an unusual development to be sure. But a great strat there by Green Zero, and a great way to definitely knock Drive off his pace and off his tempo. So let's see if the craziness continues in game number 2. Which takes us to the fresh new classic, Twisted Rift in the north as the Cyan. Of course it's not. You guys get the drill. This is Green Zero. And as the green, in the bottom right-hand corner, this is Drive. Game number 1, we start on GDI. And actually, I have a curious thing. I just had a thought. Because you start with GDI, a guy like Green Zero is going to have an advantage there. But if this was a best of 3, you wouldn't get all 3 factions. So let's say one player is really good with Scrin. Well, if they're not as good with GDI and Nod, but they're great with Scrin, they're at a disadvantage in a best of 3. A best of 5, 7, 9, whatever, you get all 3 factions at least once. But if your faction is Scrin and you start with GDI, there's a definite advantage to the player who plays GDI getting that early win. In some of the other series, we've seen some players be really strong with one faction like GDI and a little bit weaker with the others. So we'll see, does Drive, who just got a little bit stomped in game number 1, turn things around and give us a good showing for game number 2. Bikes coming out from Green Zero. It's 2 bikes before the Harvester. What is going to be coming out from Green Zero? It's going to be a second war or refinery. It's not a second war factory or anything. So this could just be some light poking bikes. If he goes Harvester after this, it looks like he is going to go Harvester. Drive, on the other hand, he's got a couple of defensive bikes. It looks like got a couple of scouting militant squads, and yep. There is Harvester number 3, and Drive sees that timing, so he'll know that the pressure is on. He'll know that there is some attack coming in. There's going to be one Harvester getting jumped on, and he doesn't drive it far enough, but Green Zero switches his attacking target. He's going to try and clean up the bikes of Drive, and that gives this Harvester enough health to survive for another moment, and Green Zero is going to lose all of his bikes. 2 bikes barely surviving there for Drive. The Harvester as well makes it out of that tense moment, and Green Zero almost picking up a Harvester kill there, but really just causing a bit of problems for Drive. And I think, was it Shoktrepet who in game number 2 of the semifinals just faked out an expansion and was like, nah, actually I'm going to go double MCV, or not double MCV, I'm going to go double War Factory and just bike buggy you until you die? It actually worked out really well. Green Zero has gone for some extra Harvesters. His bikes are a little bit low in numbers considering that he lost everything on the other side of the map, and 4 bikes going to be here for Drive. He's going to be able to jump on the units of Futurama as they spawn in, but Green Zero, who's actually Cyan, not Futurama, Green Zero gets a good kill on a low health bike of Drive. Second War Factory gets deployed for Green Zero. He's trying something similar to what Shoktrepet did for him, but one harvester goes down. The bikes of Green Zero taking some splash, I think, so two of them go down for the price of one as Green Zero loses a couple of extra bikes here, barely trying to hold on against the extremely low health, low unit count of Drive, and Drive is going to get pushed away, but he knows it's double War Factory. He has delayed this attack. He even gets an extra kill as he's heading out of town. He knows what is coming his way. He still goes for a refinery at the natural expansion anyways. What is Drive even doing here? I'm not sure how he's going to be able to hold this. Double War Factory pressure coming in here from Green Zero. It has been slowed down significantly. Wait, oh, Green Zero only has 3 harvesters. I thought he had 5 and he lost 1, but he's actually down to 3, which is not tremendous economy, and actually Green Zero isn't keeping up the pressure. So he's really just got a couple of bikes running around the map, a delayed natural expansion, and 2 war factories up north. This is not actually all that scary. He's going into full harvester reproduction from here. So he's going to try and poke in. He's going to see if he can get any extra damage here, but this is not necessarily going to be some kind of game-winning pressure coming out here from Green Zero. Drive and Futurama playing so many games over the course of the last year, and they're typically green and cyan. So now we've got green and cyan again, except this time it's Green Zero playing cyan. And, well, we've got some potential pressure coming in here from Drive. I think this is just keeping him honest. I don't think Drive is actually looking to commit to any kind of an attack. But the second refinery at the natural expansion for Drive, and Green Zero just now starting his own first refinery at his natural expansion. He went the double war factory, and he's got a good number of bikes now after he built up his harvester numbers a good bit, but I don't think he has the buggy numbers. If he had 5 or 6 buggies along with this, he could contend with the rocket squads relatively easily. Does Drive drop an extra barracks in the south? No, he's just keeping his bikes there. And Drive is going to get an extra couple shots from that building. Doesn't kill anything, but severely weakens 2 of those bikes, so they're in that low power mode. That low speed mode, rather, where they take a little bit longer to get everywhere. Refinery just now coming down from Green Zero. Meanwhile, Drive, 3 harvesters fully working at this field, maybe even a 4th harvester transferring over, who knows. Drive gets cleared out of this building. Green Zero kills off the militant squad, stopping the scout from seeing any more at that location. Drive now going to be able to potentially steal 2 full loads of blue Tiberium from the center, but Green Zero is going to jump on it. It looks like the rocket squad's actually absorbing the first round of missiles from the bikes, so Drive perfectly defends this in terms of timing, and actually he perfectly defends this. It's like 3 bikes against 3 bikes, now 2 bikes against 2 bikes, and rocket squads on the north might get an extra shot in here. No, Drive defends that basically perfectly, and the battle markers up top are just units going through Tiberium. Drive may actually get an exact free, not free because it did cost him bikes to defend this, but that is like the perfect blue Tiberium pull for Drive. Wow, that click was fast. I did not think he had the cash to get a click off like that. But that's the only refinery on the natural expansion. Green Zero is maybe 80% of the way done with the other one. I love that there's a couple of rocket squads coming in here for Drive. Of course, the Catalyst missile does not kill the harvester. It just puts it into that low health. It takes about 80% of its health away, and as a result, if you've got a couple of bikes or even a couple of rocket squads coming in to finish off the harvesters, you can often kill off the refinery and get a couple of harvester kills very quickly. Green Zero, on the other hand, no ops center, so you got to get ops center, tech center, and then tip chemical plant, all before you can actually counter one click. So many times in these nod games, you click your opponent and you have to be thinking in the back of your mind, he's got the same thing, he's about to click me as well. But no, Green Zero is nowhere close to clicking Drive. He's just now getting his second refinery reestablished at his natural expansion. Somehow, someway, Drive and Green Zero opened up very similarly, but Drive ended up about 500 miles ahead of Green Zero on Tiberium Rift. Drive looking to take a 3rd base. His Redeemer is about to step out onto the field. Looks like he has a Black Hand Squad standing by. Maybe an Engineer is on the way over as well. But Green Zero is about to hear the Redeemer cue. And he has to be thinking to himself, wow, what am I going to do against that? I think Green Zero, no, that's... Okay, he went Secret Shrine, that's what it was. I was like, what is he building? But of course, it's going to be Secret Shrine, triple barracks in the north. EMPs would be fantastic if he had a way to lock down that Redeemer and really let his rocket squads do the damage. And Drive, I think, is about to get a perfect read on this infantry army. There's his bike coming through the main base. Here's his Black Hand squad. And this is the moment where Drive knows, okay, I need to, possibly triple Hand of Nod as a response. But at the very least, like double Hand of Nod or some Black Hand squads or something. He needs to get some heavy anti-infantry out on the field to go with his avatars, to go with his Redeemer. This one bike, I think, is like hold position over in this section of the map, and it's just going to potentially do a little bit of damage to these harvesters just over time. 3 avatars down here in the south for Drive. That is a pretty serious harvester protection force from Drive. Green Zero's big play, now following it up with double Rocket Squad Hand of Nod production, and it is all up to this. Oh, that Black Hand squad never jumped inside of that Redeemer, so it's just a single engineer. And Rage Gen fires off. Perfectly timed force fire onto the ground. Green Zero completely negates that that Rage Gen. The mines do clean up a couple of squads, but ultimately inconsequential as Green Zero gets off a volley. No, he doesn't. He gets off like half a volley of rockets here. He's got double shredders. Drive's got double shredders on the front line. He's willing to misplace his second refinery on his third field just to be able to get out that extra defense against the infantry army. Green Zero, he's got his op center up and running. I think this might be tier 3 getting deployed. And now his MCV is going to head over to his third field. And now that Green Zero, that Drive has eaten up his 2 Tiberium fields and is on his last one, this is the point where if Green Zero can draw this out. All right, the Awakened squads are here. The EMPs, will they land? One of them hits the Shredder turrets. The Venom's coming in for Drive, causing even more chaos and confusion. The Redeemer stomping forward, getting some free crushes here as Green Zero is going to be looking to EMP that Redeemer, clear out the Venoms, and now go for the heavy mechs of Drive. Drive continuing to deploy more and more Shredder turrets, more and more kills, kind of create more and more problems for him, but the EMPs aren't landing, or the damage isn't landing against Drive. His mechs are just walking all over this army, and his Venoms and Shredders are here to clean up the rest. Green Zero's infantry army falls to pieces against the force of Drive. The MCV on the south side of this green Tiberium field moving forward. Even an engineer going to jump into a couple of avatars here just to get some extra value for Drive as he continues his march towards Green Zero's main base. Avatars from Drive hanging out. Green Zero has been defeated. The score is 1-1 as the early win from Green Zero on the GDI map gives him the confidence, and then a crushing defeat here against Drive, who again just got miles ahead from that opening. Green Zero, I'm not sure what the killer there was. Maybe it was just that second War Factory, but that was not his game after those first couple of minutes. And that will do it for game number 2. Let's see how things continue in game number 3. That takes us to Winter Meltdown for game number 3. And our Scrin matchup as the blue. This is Green Zero. As the green on the opposite side of the map, this is Drive. Shoktrepet beat Green Zero with Scrin on this map, and Shoktrepet did this really descent-heavy kind of opening. It looked like it should have gone terribly for him, but it actually turned out pretty well for Shoktrepet. Now, I don't know if Drive did watch that semifinal. He may as well have been playing his own semifinal at the same time, but Drive is not going triple portal or anything. He's just going the single portal, but he is getting plenty of extra descents. Green Zero likes his scouting, so we're going to see buzzers across the map. Going to be getting eyes on this descent pressure coming in from Drive. And A lot of players like to do this at the high levels. Not everyone does it, and not everyone certainly does it to the same degree. There's the MCV move, so it's like, okay, you're not building a second refinery right now because you spent all of your cash on something else, which means I really do need to watch out for however many descents you've got headed my way. Green Zero has got a good handle on exactly what is coming his way, and as always, we'll be looking how he deflects it. Green Zero has done quite well in deflecting these sorts of attacks in the past, but somehow in that Shoktrepet game, Shoktrepet came back quite well against that like nonsense pressure he tried in the first part of the game, and Shoktrepet just went whoop right for the win, and Green Zero couldn't stop him by the end of it. I guess a lot of that did come down to the stasis. I guess it was more like they were on even footing, and then the stasis won it for Shoktrepet. But, yeah, Shoktrepet came back to very even footing despite the seemingly bad opening. Drive is hoping to bait that Gunwalker. And, I mean, the Gunwalker can't leave because the drone ship can't land until these descents are dealt with. So, to some degree, Drive has an ability to keep up this little pressure in this area. But at the same time, Green Zero is going to be able to deal with it eventually. Double Gunwalker in the north for Green Zero. Drive deploying his second refinery at his natural expansion, so he's got 3 harvesters working away at his main base. Buzzer Hive gets deployed, but the Gunwalker actually goes down there, so Drive did manage to get the catch on that Gunwalker, and that is somewhat surprising. A lot of times the Gunwalker doesn't even die, and it's just terribly depressing for the Descent player. For now, the natural expansion for Green Zero will be safe. Right now, it's 3 refineries, 2-2. Green Zero ahead on the economy, but maybe Drive will be able to pull something together here. Green Zero leaving a little bit of an opening as these descents cross over to kill that Tib Spike. And they may be able to get the Tib Spike, but they shouldn't get anything more than that. Gunwalkers are going to start cleaning up those descents, and I think the Tib Spike will survive. Green Zero with a pretty secure kill there on those descents. That Tib Spike getting lower than I would have thought, but there it goes. Safely kept by Green Zero. Buzzers tagging that building, just keeping an eye on Green Zero. 4th refinery gets established for Green, and 3rd refinery's up and running, but no 4th refinery just yet from Drive. Instead went Nerve Center. Ooh, Gravity Stabilizer. Green Zero definitely wants to get the scout off on this. I don't think he has vision of this part of the map. Now, the question is, okay, I think this is just 1 Gravity Stabilizer based on the build time. I think that's another refinery. It might be Tier 3, though, coming up for Drive. And is this just going to be 4 Storm Riders to augment the army? It's very possible that that's exactly what Drive is going for. Drive actually leads with the Storm Rider immediately. A lot of times you want to hold those Storm Riders till you've got 4 or 8 of them all together and then move out with them all at once. But this almost feels like a fake out from Drive. He's like, hey, you really want to respond? But no, he's building more. So it's not a fake out. He's getting more he's getting more Storm Riders. He did go Tier 3, so looks like Drive is going to try and subsist off of this 2-base kind of play, and Green Zero is going to be looking to add on something. Storm Rider's going for a couple of shots. It's going to be Dev Tanks versus Dev Tanks. Tier 3 is up for both players, and Green Zero getting scouted by Drive, but Drive is also getting scouted by Green Zero, so equal on that sense. Mechapede's in the middle. Green Zero trying to move out against Drive's main base, but it doesn't quite work out. The dev tank of Drive was able to scare away Green Zero. And Drive, once again, that big descent opening, it didn't do any damage. It didn't even kill the Tib Spike, but the response that it forced is apparently equal enough to slow Green Zero down enough that the second refinery on the main just, like, doesn't even matter. When the armies actually clash, maybe Drive will fall apart, but it feels like he's done a really good job stabilizing himself, even though this is a mirror matchup where one guy just literally has -1 refinery from his opponent. Lightning Spike gets deployed by Green Zero. The Mechapeds cleaning up those Gunwalkers and Seeker Tanks, and eventually going to step away from that Lightning Spike so they can deal with the Seeker Tanks by themselves. One Mecha did go down. The other two do escape, and it's going to be Tripods in the north coming out for Green Zero. One Mechapede gets nicely sniped there. Both Mechapeds getting eliminated extremely quickly. The stasis is here. There's the wormhole. Who's going to pop on out? It's going to be a Mastermind, and the Buzzer Hive is here. He gets the tier 3, but Green Zero sells it off himself. So Green Zero gets the cash back, and Green Zero leaves the game. Okay, so obviously, from that point forward, Green Zero would have been behind on the tech, but unfortunately, he denied the capture of the Tier 3 and sold it off anyways as a reactionary measure, and that will do it for game number 3. Drive takes the series 2-1, and that will take us into the finals of Bike Rush versus Shoktrepet. And that takes us to the grand finals of the Guaspari mirror-only tournament, a best-of-9 featuring the Cyan player in the north of small-town USA. This is Shoktrepet. And on the south side of this teeny-tiny town, as the red, this is BikeRushOwnz. Looking at the bracket before the tournament, I don't know that I would have predicted Shoktrepet versus BikeRushOwnz. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen these guys play in Kane's Wrath. Tip Wars, sure, they've fought a decent number of times, not as much as Bike Rush and Shock Treatment, but Shoktrepet and Bike have played at least a handful of times. Even in the last couple of years, they've faced off a number of times, both in like show matches or tournaments or that sort of thing. But I'm excited to see this best of 9. Shoktrepet has been feeling pretty good today. And I mean, that game he had in the quarterfinals versus Futurama was pretty epic. He came back from some pretty interesting games in the semifinals against Green Zero. And now we get to see him against BikeRushOwnz. Does he fall flat on his face, or does he stand up tall and manage to get out some wins, maybe even take the whole thing? Which, coming into this, certainly BikeRushOwnz is the expected favorite against Shoktrepet. But we'll see. We shall see. Second power plant gets deployed. MCV backs up immediately for Shoktrepet. Slightly ahead on the timing for BikeRushOwnz, but I think not necessarily of consequence. It's really because the power plant was delayed. Shoktrepet heading to the south. Bike Rush heading to the north. Bike getting the annoying foxhole. Keeps an eye on your opponent. Shoot up that power plant. 99 games out of 100, you won't kill the power plant. But there is that one game where we do see someone kill a non-power plant usually. Everyone locked up in the middle of the map. So neither player getting the easy buildings, the ones, or the, I guess, the difficult for you to capture, but the easy scout buildings. And a couple of pit bulls heading out through the middle of the map. Okay, so a sneaky command post and a sneaky airfield coming out for BikeRushOwnz. He's going to be doing something very similar to what we saw Green Zero just destroy Drive with in the bronze match. Grenadier being mixed in here, and of course that does reveal, hey, there might be some Orcas also coming your way. If your opponent got the command post, what's the likelihood that they got it literally just for the Grenadiers and for nothing else? So Shoktrepet going to be trying to head on south, but for now his MCV is all locked up, and this is a brilliant position with these two Grenadiers in this building to potentially kill anything that steps on out of that barracks. We'll see if Shoktrepet is able to clear these buildings. The current thing is no, he is not able to clear those buildings. Lots of pit bulls here for Shoktrepet, and a nice mix of rocket squads and riflemen with the Grenadiers for BikeRushOwnz. So there's going to be lots of pits when eventually these Orcas do cross the map. and it will be just now. And are the pit bulls in the correct position? No, they are all heading north. They're going to be separated out by the terrain of this map, and as Bike Rush crosses the map, this might be the exact perfect timing to hit some harvesters of Shoktrepet. 2 of them are unloading Tiberium, another one is full, and 1 harvester goes down. Rocket Squads get a couple of shots off, and it looks like BikeRushOwnz easy peasy gets 3 harvesters, 1 completely full of Tiberium, and another 2 half full of Tiberium. 2 orcas. Happy to make that trade. 2 orcas for 3 harvesters, and of course the delay of the MCV as well. Big move out here for Shoktrepet. He's saying, I'm just going to cross the map and see what damage I can get done. BikeRushOwnz kind of splitting this army up. The use of rocket squads in some of these buildings, adding extra damage and insult to injury as Shoktrepet dodges this sonic emitter, but I think it's going to get some good shots against his Predator tanks. We'll see if it actually lands any of them. There's a couple of Zone Troopers also coming out. Not something I expected was Zone Troopers to defend against these Predator tanks, and they get every single pred. The pit bulls circling uselessly to the north. The harvesters staying secure for the current moment, and the Marv will be the harvester for the second part of this game for BikeRushOwnz. Shoktrepet taking tremendous damage to his army, tremendous damage to his economy. His only hope is here at his natural expansion, which is already being watched over by Bike Rush. Now, Bike Rush isn't there to really kill too much. He's got this Orca mainly on oversight and not really going to be doing any killing. It's going to be an MCV push, a Marv, and basically everything that Bike Rush has heading down to the southern quadrant of the map. He says, you want to expand here? I'm going to take it from you. You can go up north if you want to survive, or I'll just crush you with my harvesters, and that is legitimately working as he kills multiple rocket squads and keeps up the pressure just with harvesters. The Marv isn't even here yet, and Bike Rush is ready to tango. Pitbulls coming in. They're going to be able to clean up some of these harvesters, and BikeRushOwnz, the memeing is going a little bit too hard as he loses 2 harvesters to those pitbulls. But again, the Marv is on the way. It looks like 3 Zone Troopers and an engineer in this Marv, and it's going to be mass rocket squads from Shoktrepet as the response. The pitbulls get cleaned up nicely from BikeRushOwnz, and the harvesters, it looks like, will be the next target. And it's up to Bike Rush to defend this Marv from Shoktrepet. He's going to be harvesting away this field, getting him a nice little cash boost. This is MCV deploys, and watchtowers are finally coming up for BikeRushOwnz. Also, the sniper team's getting off so many shots as this Marv continues to absorb rocket after rocket. Shoktrepet is pretty much out of cash at this point. No fresh refineries, no fresh harvesters, no Marv to fuel his game. Shoktrepet dropping game number 1 as BikeRushOwnz starting with a very confident 1-0 score against Shok. But of course, now we go into a Nod mirror matchup, and if BikeRushOwnz has an advantage in a GDI mirror matchup, I can only imagine that advantage is going to grow in a Nod mirror. Let's jump into game number 2, which takes us to Tournament Rift. What is this? We've actually got the old classic back in the mix here as the red. This is BikeRushOwnz. And the other guy, who in some people's minds, it just wonders, it's just a case of how many games can he take. This is Shoktrepet. Without a technique or a master leaf in the finals, even a Futurama in the finals, it's hard to imagine someone else beating Bike Rush with any consistency. Drive can take some games off him, and in the last 2 years, Drive has taken a couple of series. Is he? Oh, he's worried about a Shadow Team rush. That's funny. That's a funny little move there. That's really interesting from BikeRushOwnz. He thought there was going to be a Shadow Team rush, and so he gets out that Tib silo as a little partial block on that power plant. I wonder if he had a second Tib silo queued so that he could try and block off surface area on the other side as well to try and disrupt the amount of surface area that a Shadow Team can get. And obviously, Shadow Team Rush makes a lot of sense on this map. Shoktrepet actually going for double engineer, gets the second tip spike in the south, so he's got that little bit of an advantage over BikeRushOwnz. But of course, as is typical, BikeRushOwnz is the favorite, and it's hard to imagine that Shoktrepet is going to be the one to knock him out. But hope, as always, springs eternal, and everyone in the world, pretty much, wants to see some good games versus Bike Rush, and some people just want to see Bike Rush lose, which is a little bit unfortunate that that's literally their attitude. But I just want to see some good matches one way or the other, and I think Shoktrepet is going to be able to show them to us. However, we'll see if the pressure from Bike right now is too much. 3 harvesters on the north side. Bike doesn't actually get any shots off in that swing around. I thought there was going to land at least 1 volley of rockets, but no. They pull back. The Scorpions actually get a couple of shots off, clean up 1 bike, weaken this pressure by that much more. And of course, when it's 3 bikes and a buggy, it's not really like harvester killing pressure. You're lucky if you get a harvester, but against most good players, you're not killing a harvester with 3 bikes. Maybe you get lucky every once in a while, but 3 bikes is, they probably aren't juking their harvesters or paying much attention. All right, does Bike realize this? His own refinery isn't down yet, and Shoktrepet has scouted that. He's got the militants coming through that section of the map. BikeRushOwnz may have gotten vision of the double war factory in the north just a little bit, and Shoktrepet is continuing to move his MCV, so he's continuing to keep hope alive, at least for the current moment, that he can kind of macro out of this. Refinery is up and running for BikeRushOwnz at the natural expansion. Okay, Bike Rush definitely knows what the game is, and this is the moment for Shoktrepet to cross the map. Now, Shoktrepet has included 4 buggies into this, and it looks like he's going to try and steal the blue Tiberium and use this as a cover. So BikeRushOwnz going for the rocket squads as the response, but of course Shok is thinking about this, which is why those buggies are mixed in to this army. They absorb extra rockets from the bikes of Bike, but then also they deal with those rocket squads that much more easily. Shok turns around. He doesn't commit with the first couple of bikes. He wants the full force to be here. His bikes are going to try and swing around south, but that's where the rockets already are. And curiously enough, BikeRushOwnz hasn't overproduced rockets. He literally just got the 1 out, and that delayed this attack by 20 or 30 seconds here. Just that fear. Laser turrets are now here, and these are the upgraded laser turrets of the modern day. As 1 harvester goes down, and Shoktrepet is going to call it good enough and try and escape. Bikes from Bike going to clean up some of these units as they are trying to retreat, and the exchange continues. Keep in mind, Shoktrepet stole a full load of blue Tiberium from the middle of the map, so he's kind of biking Bike at this current moment, attacking and stealing behind it, getting that extra bit of an edge. So even if you trade out 1-to-1, Shoktrepet has got that bit of an edge from the extra tib spike. He's got a bit of an edge from that blue Tiberium. His refinery is extremely delayed in the south by comparison, and so really, all things considered, it's quite possible that at best he's on even footing now with Bike. Bike was ahead on the eco, but he lost a harvester. He's down the blue, and he's down a tib spike. But that was not the game-winning kill that Shok was hoping it was going to be. Game winning might be a little bit far of a stretch. That was not significant damage. I think Shoktrepet was hoping to get 2 or 3 harvesters with that attack. 1 harvester and trading bikes is a little bit lax from what he was hoping would happen. Tier 3 is up for Bike. Meanwhile, the Operations Center is here, and actually Tier 3 might be finishing up just now for Shoktrepet. The deploy might be a tad slow, but we shall see. Yeah. So the tech has equalized. BikeRushOwnz is pretty significantly a bit further into his natural expansion than Shoktrepet is, but Shok can make that up with some defensive play, some stealing of that blue Tiberium. And of course, anytime the Tier 3 comes up, you have to think, how much further away is that first 1-click actually? Bike's coming in the south. Laser turrets are already here, and it's going to be the Vane detonation. I think that was defensive from Bike, but that was a total misfire. So that was a bunch of cash that got expended, and Maybe it wasn't. He actually gets a Harvester kill there because it was already low health. So that was a really money shot Catalyst Missile. There's the return fire. It's actually going to be the same kind of thing. 2 Harvesters die there as BikeRushOwnz gets a bit of damage on those Harvesters and cleans up 2 of them with the help of that Catalyst Missile. Either way, that Vane detonation, it could have been offensive, but that was a pretty poorly placed offensive one. It does detonate some Tiberium, so you do a bit of damage with the Vane detonation to the Tiberium, and that can sometimes be a bit problematic if you end up blowing up a whole bunch of your own money if you use it defensively. But either way, BikeRushOwnz gets clicked, BikeRushOwnz clicks. Laser capacitors, it has been revealed. Shoktrepet hoping that his bike buggy can get him some real value. Cleans up 1 Harvester very nicely there. A 2nd Harvester on the edge of the field, and it will go down. 3rd laser turret coming up here, as BikeRushOwnz is going to be able to defend these bikes with just his static D. Meanwhile, the Avatar's moving back out onto the field, and BikeRushOwnz with 4 Harvesters going to be taking that blue Tiberium, and it looks like the Redeemer is also now online for BikeRushOwnz as the MCB packs up and heads toward that 3rd contested field. BikeRushOwnz stealing 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of, like 2.5 loads of Tiberium, maybe 3 full loads of blue Tiberium, and Shoktrepet getting a bit less. The dance of the blue Tiberium, I feel like, is something that's really developed over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. When players take it, how aggressively they take it, how much attention is given to the blue Tiberium, I feel like has really been upgraded in the last 4 or 5 years. I feel like people used to care about the blue Tiberium a lot less, and maybe that's just me, maybe I'm forgetting of all of those times, but it feels like the dance of the blue Tiberium has really developed in the last couple of years, the last handful of years. Shoktrepet has already set up 3 refineries, fairly nicely spread. These ones might be a little close together, but he wants to keep them off of the front lines. I'm assuming this is intentional in he doesn't want them to be as vulnerable. He wants to keep the refineries there as long as possible, and keeping them away from that very, very front edge where they can get picked off a little easier is part of that. BikeRushOwnz, I think, has the much more dramatic ground army, but that's about to even up as the Redeemer comes in here for Shoktrepet. Blackhand and an Engineer ready to jump in there. A couple of Venoms being mixed in as well to help with that anti-infantry, but also they can just run around the map and potentially snipe power plants or weaken Harvesters, do other kind of harassment-oriented tasks. BikeRushOwnz with just every dot on the right side of the map, huddling towards the center there where he can fight Shoktrepet. Stealth reveal, he's going to be able to clean up 1 Black Hand squad and some rockets. He really wants to kill those rockets, and he is willing to commit a couple of Venoms to do that. Cleaning up some of the rockets. Rage Gen firing off. And how much damage will this do? Actually, a Harvester going to be going down. Oh, no. For Shoktrepet, devastation against that Harvester. BikeRushOwnz going to be losing, it looks like, 2 avatars here, but at the price of a whole bunch of damage to the Redeemer of Shoktrepet. So BikeRushOwnz gets a pass at the Redeemer, and he does some damage, but he doesn't get the kill. Venom's getting cleaned out by these rockets. Mass rockets from BikeRushOwnz, pushing these Venoms back. Triple obelisk on the front line. But where are the Shredder turrets? And it looks like a lot of infantry forces might be the answer that BikeRushOwnz was looking for. BikeRushOwnz is the one dropping his own Shredder turret when he's the one who really needs more obelisks, as the Venoms come in for another pass, and Shoktrepet gets pushed out of the air once again. The Avatars and the Redeemers are going to have a real problem actually burning through these obelisks, but for now, they're standing for the current moment. The rocket squads are the thing that's actually going to be getting the damage done against the obelisks. Rage Gen not firing off just yet. Another obelisk getting deployed by Shoktrepet, and he's got a couple of Spectres as well to put out some damage, but BikeRushOwnz gets the kill on the Redeemer, and Shoktrepet continues to harvest from this field. BikeRushOwnz harvesting what little he can from a long distance, and BikeRushOwnz trying to reposition on the south side of this field as Shoktrepet drops a couple of Shredder turrets to thin out the herd. And these Spectres, if they could actually land some shots, could really be pushing back the army of BikeRushOwnz. And BikeRushOwnz might have to call it quits, even with the Spectres not doing very much, as these obelisks continue to be a problem for Bike. Venom's getting some free shots against these harvesters, and the Spectre finishes it off as they land a couple more shots, and the artillery obelisk combo is too much for BikeRushOwnz. He packs up his MCV, and he says, we gotta get out of here, boys, as Shoktrepet has successfully defended the contested third field from BikeRushOwnz, and these Scorpion tanks hiding in the corner of the map are making a reappearance to do a bit of damage to these harvesters, causing more chaos and confusion for BikeRushOwnz. The artillery getting so many free shots off, and this Redeemer with its rocket squad inside of it doing a bit maybe against the Venoms, but not so much against the Spectres, powering down all of the obelisks on the front line. I'm not sure if that was purely a rage gen sort of defensive maneuver, but in this particular case, it just gave them a little bit more breathing room to not have to build as many power plants. Laser capacitor on this Scorpion going to be working away at that refinery, and Shoktrepet feeling like he's in absolute control of this game. I'm not sure who's been keeping this blue Tiberium down, if it's Shock or if it's been BikeRushOwnz, but at the same time, BikeRushOwnz going to have an MCV in the south side of the map. He's going to realize that Shoktrepet indeed has had 3 tib spikes for pretty much this entire game. And BikeRushOwnz, he's trying to pull one over on Shoktrepet. The reveal of the Hand of Nod in the south may actually give away his hand, but we'll see what exactly Shoktrepet does about that MCV moving on the south side of the map. Militant squads jump out. They grab the kill on one engineer. They're maybe going to get the kill on the other one. Yes, they close in very nicely there. It doesn't matter if they die. Oh, perfectly pulled around to the other side of the spike, and the Venoms don't get the kill. So close there. Shoktrepet almost double denying that engineer, and there's the power down from Bike. A defensive move to keep that engineer from spawning in. The Redeemer back online for Shoktrepet. He's got his own multi-MCV play going on as he steps back out onto the field, and the Rage Gen is going to fire off. All right, the Obelisk not doing anything. This multi-MCV Obelisk play is pretty good at pushing the Redeemer back. Spectre's doing more friendly fire than actual damage at this point. The Venom's chasing down this Redeemer, going to keep up that extra bit of damage over time. BikeRushOwnz produces an extra engineer, perhaps on accident, as a overproduction of predicting that death of the engineer. Oh, lovely crush of that engineer by that harvester. BikeRushOwnz getting pushed back from the middle of the map, but his hopes lie in the south. Meanwhile, Shoktrepet is looking to actually step into BikeRush's main base, something that very few players manage to do successfully. Third engineer going to get routed along the south edge of the map, possibly for the tib spike, possibly for one of the buildings at the natural expansion. Redeemer giving chase, one of the slowest moving chases in all of history. BikeRushOwnz almost loses his Redeemer, but Shoktrepet not able to get off that final shot against the Redeemer. There's the Red Gen firing off, cleaning out a couple of these rocket squads as the Avatar only just attacks a militant squad. No real problem. And the Venoms get the kill as another Rage Gen fires off, this time from BikeRushOwnz, but it doesn't really matter. It looks like the Redeemer standing tall, and the Venoms just need to clear out the infantry so that they don't take too much health away from that Redeemer. GG gets called. Shoktrepet does it. He takes a game, Nod v Nod, on Tournament Rift of all maps against BikeRushOwnz. I cannot believe he did that. Nod v Nod. He takes it from BikeRushOwnz, and that was a pretty commanding game. That third base under the control of Shoktrepet almost the entire time. He got it pretty early, and that multi-MCV Nod Obelisk crushing kind of strat that BikeRushOwnz has used to kill so many people in the past being put to task against him, and Shoktrepet knocks down the world champion in game number 2, puts us on a 1-1 score, and that sends us into game number 3. And we're back on the flattest map We got to see this one in the semifinals, but it's everybody's favorite flat map. What are these cars doing here? Who's driving to work on Tournament Galaxy? Where are you coming from? No one's going to work. As the red, of course it's Scrin. This is the mirror. Ooh, double portal. That's a lot of descents. Hey now, this is BikeRushOwnz. All right, we got to hop over to the other side of the map to see what our Cyan player is doing. These descent openings have become so popular and pretty much commonplace as like a standard build order for these Scrin games. As the Cyan, this is Shoktrepet. Old Shoktrepet taking that game nod v nod off of BikeRushOwnz. It looks like it was just single portal. There are no descents on the north side of the map, and it looks like, ooh, they're almost going to run into each other. They're almost going to pass each other. Shoktrepet heads north, but I think he will see with the remaining vision of these descents. Yeah, okay, right there. The buzzer crosses the vision of Shoktrepet, and he sees those descents as well. So Gunwalk, no, it's going to be a... These got here really fast. These got here faster than in the semifinals. Buzzer Hive is ready, but this War Factory is way far out, which means the Harvester was way far out. And actually, BikeRushOwnz gets the jump on the Harvester and eats it up. That's a lovely Harvester kill there for BikeRushOwnz. Now, the second group of descents is not necessarily going to have that same kind of advantage that the first group had. However, they might be able to sneak around to the south side of the map and get a secure kill on that Tib Spike anyways. So, if Shoktrepet defends himself a little bit better this time, briefly taking that Buzzer Hive off the line, and BikeRushOwnz actually gets the jump on several of the descent squads, weakening the defense by that much more. And it looks like a couple more descent squads are going... Oh, he sells it off. Shoktrepet very confident in his defense right now, and he gets lots of free damage. BikeRushOwnz is going to try and jump on the Gunwalker, but it will get those repairs regardless. And Shoktrepet saves the Gunwalker for the current moment. BikeRushOwnz almost getting a Gunwalker kill on top of the Harvester kill, but at the very least, he has certainly heavily disrupted Shoktrepet's opening and sort of disturbed him by quite a bit. But Shoktrepet still got his second refinery up a little bit sooner, so he's had 3 working Harvesters a little bit longer. No, I guess it's just the 2. For some reason, I thought he had built another one, but yeah, he was building all Gunwalkers, so no, I guess he hasn't. No, I was right the first time. BikeRushOwnz stealing the blue Tiberium. I think Shoktrepet has had more working Harvesters for a little bit longer than BikeRushOwnz, and he might be able to roll that into some kind of an advantage. He doesn't really have a faster expansion timing. Right now, he may be able to get the first refinery down at the natural a little bit sooner, but it's not going to be that much sooner considering that BikeRushOwnz got to steal the blue Tiberium. Getting a full load of blue Tiberium will probably make up for the difference in timing between these 2 refineries. Both of these guys strapped for cash, as doing that kind of a descent opening depletes your starting resources by quite a bit and can cause some real problems for trying to get out your first 8 Harvesters or so. Scouting Seekers, Scouting Gunwalkers coming in for both players. There's the cleanup by BikeRushOwnz, denying that vision from any longer. Nerve Center at the main base, and okay, Shock. Are you going to be doing the same thing that everyone was doing in these Scrin games? Is this just going to be like a fast tech to wormhole? This is also one of those things that I feel like in this particular tournament, the descents have been... They've always happened. Every time there's a Scrin game, at least one of the guys goes descents. They often both go descents. Sometimes one of the guys goes double. Look at that. All right, we got the stasis. We got the nerve center. We got a portal in a suspicious place. We shall see. BikeRushOwnz is aware of this. He may very well be dropping some additional buzzer hives. We'll see. For the current moment, he's just base crawling to his third base. This is one of those things where with the correct refinery and nerve center placements, you can base crawl from your natural to your third without ever having to pick up your MCV. However, Shoktrepet doesn't quite have that kind of a position. Maybe his refinery is just enough that he can base crawl with like his tech center or something, but not so sure about that. All right, BikeRushOwnz has something queued. Might be tier 3 before he goes for his third base refineries. So he sold the photon cannon. All right, Shock. We've got our eye on you. It really feels like he's going for a wormhole gimmick. Huh. I will be honest, I didn't... Oh! Lovely play by Shoktrepet. He gets the stasis on the nerve center, and then that, of course, deletes any progress that you've had at building your tier 3. So big delay there. As you can see, 2 preemptive buzzer hives here ready to go for BikeRushOwnz. It's just a power plant. I was so excited that something got placed down. BikeRushOwnz using his Seekers to kind of cover his Harvester stealing the Blue Tiberium. One of those things you have to balance is, how often do you go for the Blue Tiberium? How quickly do you go for the Blue Tiberium? If you go too quick, there isn't actually enough Blue Tiberium, or if you go too often, there isn't actually a full load of Blue Tiberium, and it takes you, 5 times as long as getting 1 load of Green Tiberium. There we go. Cleans up all of those Mechapeds very nicely. On the other side of the map, no, Scouting Buzzer Swarms coming in. And BikeRushOwnz has... No, this is not Scouting Buzzer Swarms. This is a Scouting Gunwalker. BikeRushOwnz has 2... He's got stuff queued up, but he's got 2 Buzzer Hives planted next to his MCV. He's got a Tier 3 close as well, and a Buzzer Hive on the south side also. So he is ready for this. The potential of this going south, BikeRushOwnz is about as prepared as he can be for this. Just now getting his refinery down at the very far end of the field, powers down one of the buzzer hives in that location, and even he's going to place another power plant here, something he can sell off quickly if he needs to. BikeRushOwnz closing in with the Storm Riders. They're going to be able to clean up 1 dev tank pretty easily here. They get the kill positively, and that is a lovely move for BikeRushOwnz in terms of cutting down the army. Every moment with these Storm Riders that he can get a kill can pay big dividends as this match goes on. Oh, he's got his own stasis. Man, this would be a money spot to stasis. No matter what you're constructing, it's going to cause problems if you stasis this area. And okay, I will be honest, I did not think this is the direction that this match was going. Goes into a Rift Generator. If you get my MCV, you don't get my Rift Generator, and I will kill your Mastermind to do it. So one way or the other, BikeRushOwnz is prepared for the long game. Wouldn't even be surprised to see him get a safety MCV at some point just so that he has one if he needs it. Low power is Shoktrepet, so he's got these fantastic plasma missile batteries, but they're doing absolutely nothing. Counter-harassment for Shoktrepet as he gets stasis, and a second War Factory gets deployed. Perfect stasis there by BikeRushOwnz as he cleans up a couple of Harvesters, Seeker Tanks, and the Storm Riders, cutting down the third base economy of Shoktrepet. Goodbye, Harvesters. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, the stasis still active, but this last Harvester is about to fall. Shoktrepet taking so much damage, but not yet doing any damage to the third base of BikeRushOwnz. He's cleared out the attacking forces as the Mechapeds come back online. 2, maybe 3 of them get annihilated instantaneously, and a 4th one goes down shortly thereafter. BikeRushOwnz crushes... Oh no, one of the heads escaped. That actually wasn't dead. He was just plain dead. But BikeRushOwnz crushes the attack that comes in, and we're still waiting for this Mastermind wormhole play. At the current moment, it isn't coming in yet. I don't think there's a signal transmitter just yet. I thought the Mastermind would have been produced by now. I think Shoktrepet has been a bit disrupted. I'm pretty confident that that is the general build he was going for, but I think he's a little bit cautious based on how BikeRush is playing this out, and the way that Shoktrepet was scouting sort of revealed that this is probably his play. Now, maybe it is all just a fake out. He built that portal as an insurance policy, and he's got it as a backup if he needs it, but he was hoping to just fake BikeRush out. In which case, he has not done tremendously well. He's really hurting a good bit. Oh, the snipe of the Mastermind, and maybe that will cue. No, there's no Mastermind on the other side of the map, not even under construction, as the tripod gets the kill on Shoktrepet's Mechapede. BikeRushOwnz doesn't clear the Tib Spike in the south. He does clear the bunker, though. He leaves the Tib Spike around, and now BikeRushOwnz worried. Okay, yeah. Cautious about those tripods. They will end a mechapede if they're given the chance. It's funny, there's another portal up there now, but he's still keeping this one around in his main. Gets an engineer, and this could just be a slow crawl up north to go for that Tiberium spike. Keeping this blue field very low. When this harvester shows up, there hardly is anything for it to get. Very small amount of Tiberium for that harvester to harvest. Just under 4 minutes on the clock for that warp sphere. No, for that rift generator. Warp sphere is right there, but no warp chasm, which is somewhat surprising. Gravity stabilizer gets deployed for Shoktrepet. Both players, I think, are cautious of the exact same thing happening to them. So the signal transmitter is here for BikeRushOwnz. He's thinking maybe I can jump to the other side of the map in... Oh, well, there it is going to be, and he's going to shut down the Tier 3. He gets the Tier 3, cancels the upgrade, sells it off, and Shoktrepet misses the opportunity. He's going to try and jump through the wormhole, and there are the buzzers to shut it down. The Mastermind does escape. BikeRushOwnz with a perfect execution on that wormhole. He gets the Tier 3, and even if there was a signal transmitter getting deployed or being built, it has now been delayed by that much more. And BikeRushOwnz has another minute to breathe easy, which brings his rift generator that much closer to ready to fire. Keeping on, though... Ooh, this is a lot of Tiberium that Shoktrepet is got. Now, keep in mind that Shoktrepet, for those of you who really care... Oh, lovely grab of that tib spike by Shok. But for those of you who care, Shoktrepet has actually grabbed growth accelerators. I don't know if they were buffed in 1.02 Plus. BikeRushOwnz has also deployed them, so these are apparently now being utilized in more of a mid to late game kind of sense, which I suppose makes sense, although they can be sniped extremely easily, like, for example, with a lightning spike. The other fantastic thing that this does for BikeRushOwnz is it gets him vision. He's got a lovely little eyeball inside of this area, and actually he barely sees the technology assembler. Like, that tech could have gone basically anywhere, and he gets to see it just right there, right on the edge, grabbing the tib spike away from Shoktrepet in the south. And the tripods are going to clean that up. The Mechapedes and the Mastermind heading to the south. So growth accelerators and Ichor Seed, the little Tiberium, regrowth tool that Scrin has. All right, Mastermind is coming around the north side. He's going to try and go for the cap and the EMP possibly of this, or maybe he just goes for the War Factory in the cell, gets himself a cool grand right there, shuts down the production there as he takes that out. Still no Warp Chasm from either one of these players. Normally, the Eradicator Hexapod being such a staple in any kind of an engagement utilizing Scrin, you know, hexalaming has been such a popular strategy, and it's something that can still be effective with anyone playing a Scrin faction. Not so much Reaper 17, but like I meant just vanilla Scrin. If you're playing vanilla Scrin, it's still a reasonable strategy. Ooh, there's a blink away. Are you kidding me, BikeRushOwnz? He blinks away the tripod from back there. 40 seconds on the clock. Pack and Devastator warships. BikeRushOwnz got to see this far back gravity stabilizer. He didn't see any Storm Riders, and there aren't Storm Riders hunting around the map, so that can cue him in to the fact that there's very likely going to be some heavy Scrin airships heading his way. One thing to keep in mind with his pack... Oh, wormhole popping up for Shoktrepet, and the entire army goes through it. Shoktrepet trying to shut down the natural expansion of BikeRushOwnz, and what will be the cost? 2 tripods go down, 3 husks remain, as it looks like Shoktrepet has been defeated. 20 seconds left on the clock. That was his Hail Mary. He saw the gigantic army of BikeRushOwnz. He got to see what was coming his way, and he knew with that Rift Generator, he had no chance to shut that down. If he had been able to kill the Rift Generator, he stood a chance of staying alive in that game. That eco difference. And BikeRushOwnz is the one who built more descents He got that harvester kill, and boy, did he profit from it. And that was an early strategic super weapon. So people want to see growth accelerators. We got to see that here, mid to late game usage. We got to see a super weapon employed early on as a strategic move. He knew this is a campy map. This is a map that can split very easily. You get 3 fields. You can sit on your side of the map, and you can hold out. So either you need to hex a lane better than the other guy, or you get that rift generator first, you shut down his tier 3, and you have got a clear path to victory. Shoktrepet wasn't able to do the reverse, kill the rift generator, and that ends the game for him. BikeRush has the better army, and the rift generator, no hope. No rift generator, you can at least delude yourself for a while. That'll do it for game number 3. What a great 2 games. Game number 1, I can hardly even remember it, but 2 and 3 have been fantastic. So let's see what happens in game number 4. Which takes us back to the sunny paradise that is Tournament LA, or the hot cesspool that is Tournament LA. Whichever way you'll want to look at it. As the GDI, we're back around. This is BikeRushOwnz. Managing to squeeze out a win in the screen mirror, taking his score up against this guy as the Cyan. It's Shoktrepet. Proven that he deserves to be in the finals with his performance in this series thus far. Shoktrepet has been showing quite good games this whole tournament. I'm very sad we didn't get to see more matches of him versus Futurama. Unfortunately, apparently Futurama's Kane just quit out on him, which also happened in a show match of Futurama and Drive. So I don't know, maybe Futurama has some ISP problems, and, you know, that's something that gives him some problems. I don't know. But we're back on Tournament LA, a fantastic game, Drive versus BikeRush on this map. Unbelievably close game. And now we're back. Double GDI once again on this map. It seems to be a popular choice as the 4th map in a series. Kind of curious that that happened twice, sort of in a row. Nothing too wild right out of the gate, but I mean, most GDI builds aren't ultra rush builds. Most of them are like mid-game pressure kind of builds, so if you're looking for some kind of pressure build, GDI may not be your best bet. BikeRushOwnz. Oh, that's hardcore. I mean, he drops the money on the foxhole. There's a building right there, but he wants the foxhole. He wants the premium placement, and then he even drops the cash on an extra rocket squad. Those are the sorts of things that don't necessarily make a difference at a lower level of play. If you're up against me, you don't need to be spending this kind of cash, because this isn't the difference between you and me, between which one of us is going to win the game. But a little move like that in theory puts BikeRush slightly behind, he can bank on it working out for him better in the long run, and something like this single rocket squad in that foxhole gives him this bit of an edge, which he is going to snowball for the whole game. Once again, the rifleman here in this foxhole, getting that scout against Shoktrepet, and BikeRush very complete with the scouting this game. Shoktrepet, I haven't seen quite as much scouting coming out from old Shok, which is maybe a bit problematic. You really want to have a scout going through your GDI opponent's base sometime around now, and BikeRushOwnz has got a double. He had one over here, and then he has this guy here, so he wants to keep an eye out for a command post, he wants to keep an eye out on refinery timings, and he wants to keep an eye out for any Orca kind of shenanigans. Pitbulls coming on out for BikeRushOwnz. Looks like that foxhole got emptied, I think, into the APC. Yeah, the rocket squad in the APC, so BikeRushOwnz repurposing that rocket squad with this APC and these pitbulls to start harassing these harvesters. 2 APCs are out, and that watchtower is over here shooting that stupid infantry inside of that foxhole instead of being cash spent on the defense. BikeRushOwnz loses the rocket squad, loses the APC as well. He is hunting this harvester hard, and my gosh, Shoktrepet with basically the perfect movement. The defense of this harvester is unbelievable from Shoktrepet right now. The juking around the war factory with the perfect movement pattern. Again, one of those things that doesn't matter at the lower levels, but the separation between good and great harvester preservation is something to behold. Oh, Bike. Oh, BikeRushOwnz. What a delightful refinery placement. Possibly any advantage that BikeRushOwnz created for himself in this game is just negated by this refinery placement, at least mentally. Even if that refinery placement isn't actually that much worse technically, the mentality of misplacing a refinery like that is pretty bad. BikeRushOwnz sending sending infantry, but also potentially double hammerheads, it seems, right through the middle of the map. He's got some rocket squads, he's got some riflemen, he's retaking this foxhole on the blue Tiberium, and look at this, he's also getting, I think he got a little bit of a scout, maybe those are red benches, actually, on the mini-map. Those aren't red dots, apparently. As Predator tanks, maybe some APCs, but some Predator tanks moving through the middle of the map. At least 3 hammerheads so far. AP Ammo is about to finish up. 4th hammerhead spawns in, and the Orca Strike is coming down for BikeRushOwnz. He got vision of that refinery. He's going to drop the Orca Strike, and that definitely signals positively your opponent has a airfield, possibly 2, and possibly Orcas coming in, as that gives the signal to Shoktrepet. Pitbull's chasing rifleman is a pretty hilariously bad form for a chasing. What are those pitbulls doing? They're literally shooting the opposite direction. Hammerheads showing up just as AA batteries rock up, and rockets as well, going to be deployed to the front lines. And 2 hammerheads going down as all of the rocket squads expire, but 2 more, another battery for a total of 2 get established. And this final hammerhead barely out of range. It does survive, and a free harvester kill for BikeRushOwnz. The cherry on top is that extra harvester kill. His 3rd base coming up quite nicely as the expansion point was taken by Shoktrepet. So he gets the expansion point. BikeRushOwnz moves his MCV, and it looks like Shoktrepet is aware of what BikeRushOwnz is doing. Single pitbull in the south does get scouted. No worries about 1-clicks, but all worries about hammerheads and rocket squads. At least 1 harvester cleaned up on the natural expansion of Shock, but since he's already got his refinery up and running, and BikeRushOwnz now sees that with the auto-harvesting feature of this harvester, he gets an accidental scout of the double AA battery at this 3rd base. BikeRushOwnz knows that that is a dangerous place to go, which is why he's moving an MCV in that direction, most likely with a sonic emitter queued, and he is going to try and push Shoktrepet out of this section of the map, at the same time holding on to his own 3rd base. Shoktrepet taking some damage. He needs some slingshots with this army, and there's a refinery and a sonic emitter getting deployed, but it's not going for the building. It's just going for the harvesters, and shutting down the build radius would be very nice for BikeRushOwnz. So many dead predators and so many hammerheads, which can be potentially dealt with, but aren't being dealt with. Watchtower gets shut down. BikeRushOwnz cleans out 2 of the APCs. 2 more are here, but they're low health, and a sonic emitter to defend this location. BikeRushOwnz taking both of the 3rd bases at the same time, and finally, Shoktrepet starts to strike back, but he's still having so much trouble securing this base over here on the side. BikeRushOwnz cleaning up every single one of these predators with no opposition to his aircraft. The hammerheads will get the kills. He's not actually targeting down the weakest predator tank, so they're getting extra shots off, extra damage against this MCV, and barely the last predator does fall. Double sonic emitter, and now with tungsten shells, Shoktrepet is preparing for a future which might be very gray. BikeRushOwnz with a couple of predators harassing the main base of Shoktrepet, and Shoktrepet down to just 1 refinery. He's about to lose build radius here as his harvester goes down, and Shoktrepet has been defeated, dropping 2 games in a row. After a fantastic game 2, Shoktrepet is faltering, falling apart a bit. BikeRushOwnz managing to keep his edge and keep his lead. Shoktrepet ahead on eco, and then dipping behind as he loses those harvesters and BikeRushOwnz takes away his third field. That'll do it. A very short game, and kind of a weird one development-wise, but let's see what happens in game number 5, which takes us to Tournament Arena. We got to see Small Town USA, Tournament Rift, and now Tournament Arena. As in the south, as the Cyan, this is Shoktrepet. I would love if we got to see some Shadow Team rushes in this event, but I don't think we will. In the north, as the red, this is BikeRushOwnz. Feeling pretty good about himself in this event. Made it to the finals of another tournament, and all mirror matchups, so there's nothing about the factions that is an advantage for one player or the other. It's not even like someone's playing random, and they got lucky with getting the factions that they like. You know the matchup ahead of time. You know how it's going to cycle. And in this particular case, we've got another Nod match, which is where Shoktrepet apparently shines. I mean, Tournament Rift is a very different map, so I don't know that we'll see the same sort of thing from Shoktrepet that we saw on that map. But this is also a very flat and very open map, like Tournament Galaxy, but it plays a lot differently. Number one, your natural expansions, well, you don't have 3 green fields, for one thing, but your natural expansions point you to your opponent and lead to this very common base pushy or mass tank kind of strategy where it's sort of all-out war for this little strip of land in the middle with this little cement outline or whatever. And that's all that separates your natural expansions, and it leads to this very, sometimes very short games, but very aggressive games one way or the other. 2 bikes show up for BikeRushOwnz. They're going to be able to take a couple of shots at this MCV. A curious time to unpack your MCV when it's just going to take a bunch of free damage, basically, from these bikes from a bike. That's, half of an MCV's health to repair that up. Maybe you get an engineer, or maybe you just pay the slow cost, the trickle repair over time. Extra power plant coming down for BikeRushOwnz. He got himself out a couple of bikes. He got to see that everything was exactly normal for Shoktrepet. And now, does he drop a second war factory instead of a refinery? We've seen Shoktrepet do this in several games, and it works out for him pretty well, to be honest. Very far away in the south, so he legit wants to hide this from BikeRushOwnz. He doesn't want this in a place that is actually strategic for the rest of the game. He puts it all the way in the very southern corner of the map, and BikeRushOwnz is actually going to scout it moments after it gets deployed. He's going to see it. I think his bikes barely caught vision of it. If they didn't, he does notice that this is a super-duper late refinery timing on the natural expansion. It's actually going to be triple war factory. It's pretty all in from Shoktrepet. And how can BikeRushOwnz handle this? He deploys directly into the middle of the map. He can still get a refinery on this field if he gets the opportunity, but more than likely, he won't get the opportunity to get his natural expansion economy up and running. It is going to be an all-out war here in the middle of the map. It's going to be fast and furious, and it's possibly just going to be sustained by long-distance blue Tiberium harvesting. Swinging around to the other side of the refinery, BikeRushOwnz up against a lot of Scorpion tanks, and these laser turrets are going to definitely help him hold the line as his bikes take swinging shots at the Scorps in the north. One laser turret is down. The rocket squads are starting to pour in, but it's a trickle rate for BikeRushOwnz. He doesn't have a big mass of rockets. Lots of lasers are here to blast away these Scorpion tanks, and there's the reforming of the front line. It's not going to be lasers. It's just going to be shredder turrets on the other side for Shoktrepet, targeting down those lasers. And now more Scorps coming in for Shok. May have to sell off one of his war factories back there. He does indeed, so he can keep up his production on the front line. It might almost be worth it for Shoktrepet to get another hand of Nod so he can deploy his own laser turrets. But for the current moment, with his Shredder to keep the infantry down and with his Scorps to kill the lasers, he's doing well enough. If he can cut down these lasers or kill another power plant or two, he might be able to start eating away at the MCV and eventually stop this push from BikeRushOwnz. BikeRushOwnz establishing no fresh economy, so they're both on a ticking clock of how much Tiberium they actually have under their control. Shoktrepet rotating his tanks extremely well, keeping the fresh ones on the front line and the other ones repaired pretty constantly. But as he gets further away from the war factory, this is going to be more and more difficult. One power plant goes down, a second one not under threat just yet, as finally a tank does fall. Shoktrepet keeping those Scorps alive as long as he possibly can. There's going to be a first refinery on the natural expansion advantage for Shoktrepet as long as he can keep up the production. BikeRushOwnz holding back a lot of his tanks. If he can get a good group of tanks together with the rockets, with the lasers, maybe he can break this attack from Shoktrepet. But Shok says, I don't care. I'm going to find another angle. I'm going to not engage those lasers and instead go right for your power plants, go right for your infrastructure. Scorps turn north for BikeRushOwnz. The reinforcements might be able to sandwich for Shoktrepet. He turns now back to the power plants, trying to slow the production of BikeRushOwnz, trying to take him offline, but he's taking so much damage in the process. BikeRushOwnz finding the side and the rear armor of those tanks. A couple of bikes coming in for BikeRush to get an extra couple of shots off, and now Shoktrepet. He's got the potential of dozer blades coming in with the ops center, but he's not researching that. He's just using it for the tech. Now he gets his own hand of nod. His Scorpions have not been able to break the front line of BikeRushOwnz, but he's got an insurance policy. That refinery whirring away, getting him more cash than BikeRushOwnz, but does he have enough opportunity to make use of it? 4 harvesters on the front line. The laser turrets are getting out of hand for Shoktrepet. He's got so many to kill off. And now BikeRushOwnz is confident to step away from the lasers and go for the harvesters. This is the danger for Shoktrepet. He gets the bike. He stops the stealth detection, and now it's Scorp v Scorp in the field, but with lasers on the help side of BikeRushOwnz. More lasers coming down for Shoktrepet, but they're too few and far between, considering the amount that BikeRush has been able to build up. That reverse move bug catches 2 of those Scorps. The rest reversed, moved away from the front line. And unfortunately for Shok, he lost 2 tanks to a bug, and those he can't get back. Harvester's taking some heavy damage, but still continuing to stick around. The obelisk is here. He managed to get out tier 3. His production took a hit. He got his economy up, and he got his tier 3 up, but the harvesters are getting targeted. BikeRush doesn't care about losing tanks. He just wants to kill harvesters. He gets all 3, but he pays the price of a couple of tanks, and that is worth it to him as the first avatar steps on out. The Black Hand Squad from the sold-off Operations Center doing what it can, but is it enough? Will Shoktrepet have anything to power his late-game tech? He's going to lose another harvester. This group of Scorpion tanks unstoppable for BikeRushOwnz as they claim another life. And now they just have to escape on out of there. And if they die on their way out, their job is done. The economy of Shoktrepet has been cut down, but he manages to hold on 2 harvesters on 1 refinery with a real field in the mix. BikeRushOwnz, I think, sold his MCV to keep this alive, which means every moment that goes on, there is less and less of a hope. He actually, he sold his MCV or he lost it. Either way, it's now going to re-emerge from the war factory. The Avatar does not give chase. Shoktrepet has survived, and now that everything is calmed down, Shoktrepet is just far enough ahead that he might be able to survive and build an army to kill BikeRush before BikeRush can get back on his feet. What an insane match. Not often do you see a game like this on Tournament Arena. In some cases, this is exactly how like every game in Tournament Arena looks in some ways. But at the same time, I feel like it's also maybe 3 minutes faster than it normally happens on Tournament Arena. BikeRushOwnz, he's going to try and steal Shoktrepet's Blue Tiberium. A perfect move by him as he tries to steal that bit of economy away from Shok. Take it for himself. Deny it from Shoktrepet. Ooh, super annoying. Oh, these laser turrets doing so much damage to that MCV as it marches to the front line. And there's going to be the repair as this obelisk is going to be getting deployed. No, it's going to be a shredder turret right out of the gate to try and break down some of those rocket squads. The MCV getting a power plant to body block away from those forces, and it looks like BikeRushOwnz may have swung through and cleaned up a power plant, a couple of Scorps, and then some bikes for BikeRush, killing an upgraded power plant as he tries to take down a second power plant, but the avatars are just barely too strong. BikeRushOwnz keeps his hopes alive by delaying this push in the middle of the map. The MCV so weak, so low on health, BikeRushOwnz holding on, but also keeping some hopes alive against the higher tech Shoktrepet, and Shock also just like here by a thread, hardly anything going on. And I can't believe BikeRushOwnz managed to get away with that blue Tiberium. Just a fantastic move that he stole his opponent's blue with that kind of a placement. Refinery in the middle of the map for BikeRushOwnz. He's starting to lose these power plants. He needs to field an army soon, although slowly. Shoktrepet is going to be moving towards the MCV. The laser hub on the far side of the MCV so that the lasers get as many shots. Lovely body block with that Tib silo. It's a delay tactic for BikeRushOwnz. It doesn't win him much time, but it gives him a little bit of time. Another harvester here to steal the blue Tiberium of Shoktrepet. I think BikeRushOwnz might just be really strapped for cash. He's been long-distance harvesting so much in this game. And Shoktrepet has actually had decent eco for the last couple of minutes since he got the second refinery up. Just barely skating by as BikeRushOwnz was long-distance harvesting. Shoktrepet was harvesting double harvester off of a single refinery from one field. And that was enough to keep him in this game. The MCV, the second MCV, moving forward. And BikeRushOwnz has been beaten back. The Nod mirrors are where Shoktrepet has value, where he has strength. The MCV gets sold off. It's BikeRush's Hail Mary play. He's looking for one last hurrah. He's got a Hand of Nod and a double War Factory in the north. He's got limited economy, but he's been stealing blue Tiberium and limiting what Shoktrepet can do. But of course, Shoktrepet is just going to keep marching forward. Avatars and obelisks. Classic Nod base push. Keeping those obelisks churning. Always glowing red. Always firing those lasers. Tier 3 got healed up. It took some damage earlier. Oh, well, Fresh Obelisk is going to shut that down real quick. Power plant getting targeted down by BikeRush. GG gets called. BikeRushOwnz has been defeated. Shock has got himself a playstyle that works in these Nod mirrors. Wow, that triple War Factory opening from Shoktrepet. Super delay on the natural expansion, but look at that. He kept up his economy just barely enough. I mean, they're neck and neck when they're on one field, and then I think this is where that second refinery, or that refinery on the natural expansion gets established, and Shoktrepet is able to barely squeak out the win against BikeRushOwnz. BikeRushOwnz keeping himself in this game with that blue Tiberium, and that will do it for game number 5. Shoktrepet puts another point on the board, taking him one step closer to victory. Which brings us to Tournament Highlands for game number 6. And hey, we got no Nod on Tournament Highlands. So instead of a big flat open Nod map, we've got ourselves a big flat open map. Lots of space for the red screen player on the right side. This is BikeRushOwnz, only leading by 1 point. And with some very impressive Nod play, but lacking on the other factions. As the Cyan, it's Shoktrepet. I love this format the more I see it. It's one of those things where it's like a mirror-only tournament. I don't want every tournament to be that. I don't want every tournament to be vanilla factions only. But having a mirror-only tournament, especially with what Guasfari's talking about doing, different sub-factions with the next one, that's fantastic. I love that we get to see this kind of variety. It's a different angle on the game. Kane's Wrath has been phenomenal in the year 2021. Who would have thought that 13 years after release, the game would have a high point, maybe not the highest peak, but 2021 has been a high point for competitive Kane's Wrath. And that's just great. We all love to see this. Double portal from both players. And of course, with this kind of a double portal play, you always got to ask yourself, do you go for the tip spike for the more guaranteed damage, but the slower burn of actualizing that damage? Or do you go for the money? Oh, this could go very badly because if the power plant goes down, either way, the production is slowed, or the buzzer hive is offline, and then the harvesters die to this other group. The gunwalker is not enough, and actually they could potentially jump on the gunwalker. This is going to be a really tough hold for Shoktrepet. He rotates around the roller factory, loses one harvester anyways, and the Gunwalker takes some damage also, but a second harvester going down would be death on just pure and simple. BikeRushOwnz going to be losing his own harvester on the other side of the map, and BikeRushOwnz also taking down a power plant, gets the buzzer hive as well. Shoktrepet going for the kill, but he's going to get cleaned up. The Gunwalker and the buzzer hive does the damage, and the harvesters escape, barely surviving. BikeRushOwnz gets the kill on one harvester and a power plant and a buzzer hive, but the Tib spikes get eliminated, so Shoktrepet keeping some kind of hope alive, chasing down BikeRush's descents with his Gunwalker and trying to get his feet back under him. Shoktrepet has actually created a pretty decent little advantage by killing off those two Tib spikes as long as he holds on to his own Tib spikes. 1,200 credits a minute of advantage. Now, that isn't a whole lot by comparison to how much Tiberium a harvester harvests, but that definitely helps offset the economy of a harvester. And Shoktrepet is back up to 3 harvesters. It's only 1 refinery, so having 2 versus 3 isn't that big of a deal. It's a bit of extra income, but not by that much. Second refinery, about halfway done for BikeRushOwnz. A little less than 10% for Shoktrepet. Shoktrepet is still sort of sharking around the map with those descents. And of course, from this point on, the game is going to look a little bit later in all of the timings than if this was a more macro-oriented play. Harvester goes up to the north for Shoktrepet. No such harvester for the current moment from BikeRushOwnz. He is rocking 4 harvesters. I think a 5th one is about to emerge. All right, so Shoktrepet has got this disintegrator scouting force, just outside of his base. He's going to keep an eye out for anything from BikeRushOwnz. And at the same time, Shoktrepet is going to see, okay, we've got the same number of refineries. We've got not quite the same number of harvesters, although Shoktrepet does have one up here and also one down here. So actually, they do have the same number of harvesters. They're just not reporting in as often. Uh-oh. That's a nerve center. That's a slow building something on one base. Is this a one-base tech build from BikeRushOwnz? Shoktrepet spreading himself out may be advantageous, or it may be the weak link that breaks him in this game. Here he either evens the score up, putting himself within striking distance of killing BikeRushOwnz, or he falls down, and BikeRushOwnz is at match point. Wow, okay, so he sells off the Tier 2, which means he doesn't want any defense against aircraft. He is happy to just maintain. Okay, but he also sells off the portal. I have no idea what he's going. Mechapeds? Is it just going to be mechas? That's the whole play, is just mechas, and that portal was to... Okay, that's all in. We're double War Factory, Tier 3, go, go, go. And this is the end game for BikeRushOwnz. No gravity stabilizer to come back. It is going to be, you see fast tech coming, you see a portal, you think it's going to be the wormhole play. But in actuality, it's massive amounts of Tier 3 ground units headed your way. BikeRushOwnz, bold play here in game number 6. Our second scrim matchup, and BikeRushOwnz says, I am all in on this strat. Secret tank gets cleaned up. Shard Mecha is going to be able to jump on this harvester. One harvester guaranteed dead. Second harvester is pretty close to dead as BikeRushOwnz drops down the second harvester. The lightning spike gets deployed by Shoktrepet, and now the first Storm Riders revealing themselves. The dev tank gets eaten up, and these mechas now going to be able to claim a third harvester. Even if the second one dies, they will get a fourth harvester. One Mechapede died, but the other 2 survive as the repair drones are here for BikeRushOwnz. Even this Gunwalker acting like he can help or something. And yeah, Shoktrepet is like, oh, this guy is doing this on a one-base tech build. Another Mechapede does go down. These Storm Riders doing what they can to clean things up, and BikeRushOwnz is about to lose some harvesters, but he had a preemptive buzzer hive here. One harvester may still go down, but the Mechapede is going to help clean up these descents, and no, they actually survive. The harvester actually stays alive, and the disc mechas clean up that Storm Rider. BikeRushOwnz, somehow he's making this work. That backup warp sphere not even doing anything. As BikeRushOwnz has got that double war factory, but he doesn't even have double war factory production for at least part of this game. He's going to go for the steal on the blue Tiberium in the south, an engineer in the north, maybe of no consequence, but he did get it from selling off his MCV, so maybe it will have some real value and garner him some... Oh, never mind, it gets sniped. Well, we don't always get what we want in life. And BikeRushOwnz, he's out of cash, man. Like, he's got to make this work on this Tiberium that he's got right now. So as this game goes on, this just gets worse for him. One mecha down and a second mecha getting targeted. Dev tanks don't get the kill. Yes, they barely do, but just before the dev tank dies. And goodbye, 2 more harvesters, it looks like. Nothing here to save them. Shoktrepet needs a play. He needs to save his harvesters. Any kind of income advantage that he had just pretty much disappeared as they're about to be on very even footing economically. Mechapede's continuing to tear through these harvesters, but has the last harvester fallen, or will BikeRushOwnz get another kill? Shoktrepet down to 2 harvesters. 2 tib spikes, 2 harvesters. This guy has so much Tiberium at his fingertips, but he just can't get it. Dev tank's not working. Lightning spike's not working. Photon cannon's not working. Everything is going south for this guy. Shoktrepet, in theory, should have a screaming economic advantage against BikeRushOwnz, but BikeRushOwnz has killed so many harvesters that it just doesn't matter. If Shoktrepet can ever get anything resembling a normal 2-base economy, he will just have, like, infinite money by comparison to BikeRushOwnz. But BikeRushOwnz is doing a pretty good job of keeping him down. Now, Shoktrepet wisely is playing very defensively. He's keeping the lightning spikes around. I mean, you know, he's not repairing them. But he's not, you know, he's keeping them in very defensive positions. They're not way out here where they can be sniped more easily. BikeRushOwnz would really have to commit to killing off those lightning spikes if he wanted to get them. Just now, the tib spike's getting targeted down by BikeRush. He's long-distance harvesting. I guess he can always get more harvesters. He can't necessarily get more of anything else, but, you know, he can get more... He can't get more refineries, I should say. But he can get more harvesters, so he can make his long-distance harvesting, like of the center green Tiberium field, a little bit more regular. It may not be an ideal situation, but BikeRushOwnz is looking to make it work. More long-distance harvesting, more cleaning up of the tib spikes, but actually, both tib spikes are still alive, so BikeRushOwnz might just be kind of calling it quits. He's not committing to anything. He's maybe running out of steam here, as he's didn't get the critical damage that he needed, and maybe he's just looking for what else he can do. Storm Rider gets perhaps a pretty complete scout of BikeRushOwnz. Only down to 1 war factory now, so no double war factory production for BikeRushOwnz. Obviously, he can't afford it, which is why he sold off that other war factory. And Shoktrepet sees the situation. He knows he has to hold out. That's still no easy feat, although with the base defenses, with the buildings and the quick reinforcements, Shoktrepet has a pretty decent chance of holding out. This could be where the infinite money of Shoktrepet, by comparison, comes into play. 3 photon cannons on the right side of this Tiberium field, and BikeRushOwnz is going to try and hang out over here as long as he can, far away from the base defenses, and pick off as many reinforcements as he can, dancing his Mechapedes as close as he dares to those base defenses, and taking some serious damage off of those harvesters as well. A couple of harvesters getting cleaned up, perhaps. They're extremely low on health as BikeRushOwnz cleans up the dev tanks. The photon cannons are still here, but the repair drones are so powerful with those tripods on the back end. This one Storm Rider taking loose shots for Shoktrepet as here come the reinforcements, and now here go the Annihilator tripods as one finally gets eliminated. The Mechapedes swoop in for the kill, but it's going to be Descents as the follow-up, and BikeRushOwnz has been broken, it seems. As he backs away, another Mechapede goes down, and does he just not have the cash to replenish those Okay, no, he's finally getting more segments on that mecha, but goodbye the last tripod. No engineers. The GG gets called, and BikeRushOwnz has been defeated 3 games to 3 games. Shoktrepet does the impossible, evens the odds. He's not just a nod boy. He plays Scrin as well. And there on Tournament Highlands, it's all about the economy, even more so than in other games. That ultra-risky play by BikeRushOwnz didn't play off. Shoktrepet kept his cool, kept his defense, identified what he needed to do, and executed BikeRushOwnz. Let's go into game number 7. And that takes us to Tournament Odyssey. We have ourselves a tied series. And to be honest, the only time you expect to see that against this guy in the north is when it's 0-0 as the red. This is BikeRushOwnz. And in the south as the cyan, give it up for Shoktrepet! Showing some fantastic games. Possibly you could call it a breakout tournament for this fellow. This is not a breakout tournament in the sense of we didn't know about this guy, that he was any good before this. We've seen good games from Shoktrepet, but not this consistency and not at this level in Kane's Wrath. Tib Wars, sure, long time. Kane's Wrath, less so. And I'm so glad that he made the switch. I'm sure he still plays both, but I'm so glad that we get to see him here in some of these tournaments in 2021, showing some great games. You know, when you look at the bracket, I wouldn't have said, Shoktrepet versus BikeRushOwnz is my final. I mean, if it's Green Zero versus BikeRushOwnz, it's a rematch from the 2021 Championship Series. So we get to see a mirror-only matchup between those two guys. There weren't a lot of mirrors in the last time they met. You think about Futurama, always a classic match. BikeRush typically wins that, but Futurama always puts up a good fight. The games are always entertaining. It's going to be this mirror format, so it'll be fun to see. Shoktrepet, not really on my radar. Kind of like if Scorp UA had made it to the finals, be like, well, I hadn't thought of that. But here we are, Shoktrepet providing some amazing games versus BikeRushOwnz. BikeRushOwnz deciding to go for some pretty rash and risky stuff in some of these games, and it's largely not working out. I mean, against a lesser player, they get shook, they get tilted. Shoktrepet, one way or another, is keeping his cool after multi-game losses against BikeRushOwnz, and he is bouncing back very positively. Now, of course, we are here on Tournament Odyssey. It's a GDI mirror. BikeRushOwnz turns into a monster on this map so many times. He does this, like, base pushy kind of 3-tib field, crush you with units thing. And it can be very scary to play against, and he just sometimes puts out an insane amount of stuff on this map and maintains control in a way that he doesn't on some other maps. You know, Tournament Arena, Small Town USA don't play the same as this map, and sometimes it's just too much. BikeRushOwnz on this map is just too much, so we'll see how Shoktrepet deals with it. Our Cyan hero has been putting up an admirable fight this entire time, and certainly I hope to see him take more games off of BikeRushOwnz in this series. It would be not unbelievable, but it's just been a little while since we've had someone who can really take BikeRush to task with any kind of consistency. I mean, sure, again, we talked about this previously, but Masterly famously defeating BikeRush in a couple of tournaments, and then Technique doing the same, but that was 4 or 5 years ago. In the last year and a half, maybe one person has beat BikeRush in a tournament. I'm not actually sure about that, but that's basically where we're at. Double refinery on the natural expansion for BikeRush. It's a little slower for Shoktrepet, and this has been a game of scouts up to this point. So many scouts from both players, and so many killed off scouts from both players. It looks like Shoktrepet went for his own defensive tower in the north, so he's got that going on. Oh, and BikeRushOwnz barely made it inside of the minimum fire distance of this defensive tower, so those riflemen will continue to poke away at that. BikeRushOwnz may slowly lose that tower to Shoktrepet. Okay, This is where that GDI mid-game scout becomes so important. They're doing the same thing relatively. However, BikeRushOwnz is maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds ahead of Shoktrepet. Pitbull is going to be swinging by for Shock, take a couple of shots in each direction, but no more than that. It's Hammerheads, it's not Orcas for BikeRushOwnz. So those rocket squads may very well just be to jump inside of these Hammerheads. I don't actually know where those rocket squads went. They got sent somewhere. But inside of those Hammerheads one way or the other. One rocket squad way down there in the south. Orca Strike heads out across the map. Pitbulls may take a couple of additional shots here from these rocket squads as they dive in to go for that Harvester. One Pitbull is going to die. And there's the Orca Strike revealing the Harvester. Perfect strike there for BikeRushOwnz. I cannot believe how well timed that was. He got that exactly with that Harvester. Just maximum damage on that Harvester. Rifleman and a couple of rockets on the north side here for Shoktrepet. Doing some damage up there. Hammerheads not continuing to come out. Maybe it was literally just the one Hammerhead. I don't know if BikeRushOwnz made a bit of a mistake there. Or maybe there's some Hammerheads flying around. Okay, there's two in the south. Rockets inside of them. These are Harvester Harass, and BikeRushOwnz has cut production behind the scenes. So it's going to be Hammerheads for Shoktrepet as well. And there's the AA battery, so BikeRushOwnz knows what kind of commitment that Shoktrepet is going for, but he's still got a Harvester kill anyways. Pitbull's showing up for BikeRushOwnz. He's going to be able to jump on that massive splash damage as one Hammerhead goes down. A second one is almost dead, and that might have actually been two Hammerheads that exploded at once. It's hard to tell when they are that stacked on top of each other. A couple of rockets fire off on each side. BikeRushOwnz has some rockets heading through the Tiberium there in the north. BikeRushOwnz not taking this expansion point just yet. He's got a rifleman standing nearby, and he sniped the engineer of Shoktrepet's trying to make its way to that expansion point. Pitbull's coming back over. That's a Firehawk heading out to bomb something of Shoktrepet's. And actually, it may just be anti-air missiles. I don't know what the point of that was. That refinery is gone, so that's just a complete whiff of an Orca Strike. Unfortunate for BikeRushOwnz. Okay, Shoktrepet, he is coming out with the big plays. He takes the northern field. BikeRushOwnz takes the southern field. And it's going to be a Marv versus a Marv. But BikeRushOwnz has his first. The MCV immediately moves, but then Shoktrepet realizes what is coming down his way, and he realizes he needs to get on out of there. Firehawks coming in. This is a laser-fenced Reclamator hub. And they're going to try and clear out those Hammerheads. These are upgraded Hammerheads with AP ammo, and they will take a couple of shots there, but not a lot. Juggernaut's out on the field for BikeRushOwnz, and it's going to be a contested third field for Shoktrepet. No contest on the third field from BikeRushOwnz. Double Engineer heading for that Marv, but they're not yet there. Oh, beautiful snipe by Shoktrepet. Perfectly executed there. Almost gets the MCV as well, but gets so much damage against this Marv. And by so much, I mean not actually that much damage, but a decent amount of rockets fired against this Marv. A decent chunking down of that armor, and in a way that is non-repairable without those engineers from earlier. The split isn't quite fast enough. Shockwave artillery fires off. The zone troopers get inside, though, and barely land inside of that Marv. I think it's actually hard to tell how many of those pods are filled up. Perfect shockwave, though, as the sonic emitter gets deployed from both sides. The last of the Hammerheads get cleaned up, and BikeRushOwnz kills that Marv so quickly. Shoktrepet barely won't kill the Marv of BikeRushOwnz, and the game swings into the favor of BikeRushOwnz, even stealing 2 full loads of green Tiberium, and Shoktrepet can do nothing to stop BikeRush. All in a moment, the game goes horribly, horribly south for Shoktrepet. BikeRushOwnz was already set up for success with his expansion in the south. Slowly but surely building that up, getting his Juggernauts faster, getting his Marv faster, and now it's all come to pay off in a big, big way. Orca Strike comes in, does a bit more damage to the Marv, but that wasn't the Marv-killing blow that Shoktrepet had hoped for. And now what does Shoktrepet have? He has long-distance harvesting on this green field of BikeRushOwnz. He goes for the scan, and he's going to deploy a fresh MCV here, but this is a sonic emitter which will blast away at the harvesters of Shoktrepet. This multi-MCV play, BikeRushOwnz is the one who actually has 2 MCVs active, and not just one MCV that's dead and one MCV that's over there on the right side of the map. Firehawk's trying to keep the hammerheads down. Another harvester falls. These other 2 so low on health, they finally get cleaned up there. GG gets called, and BikeRushOwnz with the noose around the neck of Shoktrepet. He leaves the game. BikeRushOwnz takes the victory into his hands and puts himself at that match point advantage. Shoktrepet has to prove himself 2 games in a row, but it's Nod and Scrim, and he has a real chance at taking this away from BikeRushOwnz. And that lands us for game number 8 on Tournament Dust Bowl. The no poker variant in the north as the cyan. Give it up for Shoktrepet. And in the south as the red, looking to close out this series. This is BikeRushOwnz. The funny thing is, in this series, BikeRushOwnz doesn't have a Nod win. He just can't beat Shoktrepet's Nod. However, this is a map, an official ladder map, you could say, with 3 fields. Will it be the old L shape, or will it be the triangle? Who knows? BikeRushOwnz looking to secure a win, but Shoktrepet is causing him some real problems with that goal in a way that most players just can't. Shoktrepet kind of taking BikeRush to task over this series, and 1 game away from an ace match, from a split score once again. What's the choice? Okay, double refinery. Double refinery from BikeRushOwnz. There it is from Shok as well. Scouting buggy takes a look to see what's going on. It's 3 bikes. Maybe 1 Scorpion is going to be the response from Shoktrepet. Let's see how good the Harvester juking is. There's nothing coming out of this War Factory. Oh no! That was the wrong way! The Harvester goes down. Shoktrepet went the wrong way. Either a misclick or a pathing error. That Harvester was not routed correctly, and BikeRushOwnz gets the kill. 3 bikes and a buggy for the investment, and now he is in Shok's head. Shoktrepet is going to find it difficult to bounce back from that one. That Scorpion tank was late. 4 harvesters for BikeRushOwnz, and 3 bikes getting some extra repairs. 1 Scorpion for Shoktrepet. He's at an awkward place right now, and BikeRushOwnz can head back in with these bikes, maybe even packing along a couple of extra. He's up to 5 bikes. I mean, he could add in a 6th bike to cross the map, get there a little bit later, replace one that dies. All right, BikeRush is going to jump on these harvesters. One of them is potentially pretty exposed here on the south side of the field. Bike cuts over to the left side, and he's going to jump on the freshly started harvester, but it gets paused perfectly there by Shoktrepet. Very nicely done. The buggy goes down. Shoktrepet starting to stabilize. He's keeping a cool head on his shoulders. He's behind and he knows it, but he's not letting it stop him. Hand of Nod gets deployed, an insurance policy, or it's just for the laser turrets. Either way, BikeRushOwnz faked him out. The Scorpion tanks are away. 2 of them are coming back in, but here are the bikes. They swing in. 1 rocket squad is here. BikeRushOwnz almost going for a 2nd volley, but he decides to pull away, and he's just keeping Shoktrepet busy. At the current moment, BikeRushOwnz 3 harvesters on the natural expansion, feeling fantastic with how this game is going. He loves his score. He likes the opening of this match. That first Harvester getting eaten up by Bike Rush. Big confidence boost for him. Buggy gets pushed into the corner of the map, and the bikes will destroy that as well. No more scouting for you. Shoktrepet finally getting his second refinery on his natural expansion. So many delays. So much cash. I mean, we saw him queuing up probably a laser turret, and he's still got it there in his defenses tab. He's not spending that cash on anything else. A faster power plant to follow up, a faster operations center, nothing. All of his harvester timings delayed from this. Radar jamming missile comes up there for BikeRushOwnz. It fires off, just causing a little bit of a lag in the game and a little bit of confusion for Shoktrepet. Anytime that happens, in the back of your mind, you always think, like, is this a fake out? Is he just trying to mess with me? Is there actually an attack or an engineer passing by somewhere? Bikes swing up to the north. 2 base onto the tech for BikeRushOwnz. He's up to tier 3. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. This can be sort of one of 2 variants. This is either the, like, take double third bases kind of thing, or this is just drop a refinery and run. In the north, BikeRushOwnz closes in on a harvester. He's got a big group of bikes. He can almost burst down these harvesters. He goes for the one that has lots of Tiberium. There's the catalyst missile as he knocks down one harvester. The second escapes, but that was the one with no Tiberium inside of it. Knocks down that refinery, and as BikeRushOwnz prepares to potentially take a third base refinery, he himself having so much eco in the game. Where's the chemical plant? No chemical plant just yet from Shoktrepet. He's got the scouting militant squad. And Seed Tiberium gets dropped for BikeRushOwnz. Okay, another radar jamming missile just as the Vapor Bomb cleans up the power plants. And it's going to be low power mode for Shoktrepet. He drops another refinery. Oh, that refinery placement, tragic. As BikeRushOwnz feels like he is just bounding ahead, miles and miles into the future, into the ahead of Shoktrepet. MCV for Shoktrepet. It's slower than BikeRushOwnz, and this is not the drop a refinery and then keep on moving play from BikeRushOwnz. He's camped out there for at least a minute, but at the same time, he's prepping his Redeemer on the right side of the map. These avatars are going to smoke those Scorpions. And Shoktrepet, he's just trying to survive. Losing his tib spike hurts. It's not the end of the world to lose the tib spike, but in this kind of a situation, it just adds more and more pain to every moment of this game. Redeemer is on the way for Shok. The first obelisk is already deployed on the north side of this third field for Bike Rush. A couple of Shredder turrets may also appear relatively soon. There's the chemical plant. And it's going to be out on this field over here. The refinery gets nuked, but there's another refinery already on this field. Sells off the chemical plant, gets himself a Black Hand squad member. Or a Black Hand squad, rather. Scouting buggy for Shoktrepet, possibly looking for a juicy target to Tib Vapor Bomb or to Tib Vein Detonation. Harvester gets the crush. BikeRushOwnz with those sneaky Black Hand squads sent around. There's the Redeemer out for Shoktrepet. And this is where he's been able to win those, well, at least one of those nod games was in the dance after the Redeemers. BikeRushOwnz pulls his Redeemer down south. Is it stealth? I don't think it is stealth. No, it's not a lot of stealth fields in this game or the last nod game so far. Double Obelisk is here. This field is no longer open for business as BikeRushOwnz going to drop a third Obelisk, gets the kill on the Harvester. Rage Gen fires off. I think everything has already been given an attack order. A couple of these obelisks getting powered down a moment too late as the first avatar for BikeRushOwnz falls and a mine drop directly on top of that Redeemer. The avatars as well taking a couple of shots here but ultimately the mines do get cleaned up. Double obelisk on the front line, but while BikeRushOwnz has distracted Shoktrepet by dropping those mines, BikeRushOwnz continues to press forward. The Redeemer so low on health, like surprisingly low for how long it's been in this game. The Spectre is a fantastic move for Shoktrepet, but at the same time, it might be just a little too late. Laser Scorps are in the main base of BikeRushOwnz, but it looks like they're being dealt with. Both avatars have been cleaned up, and BikeRushOwnz, with just brute force, continues to plow through the base defenses of Shoktrepet. Those Scorps still trying to get more and more kills on those power plants, but BikeRushOwnz, he has got blood to spare. He's dropped another refinery over on this third base, and he is choking out Shoktrepet, cutting off every avenue and every possible area of escape. Shoktrepet, this was his opportunity. This was his chance, but contrast this with the game on Tournament Rift. The faster third from Shoktrepet, the faster double MCV play, and he had control of that Tiberium. He had the Spectres out sooner relative to this, and the Vertigos, the answer to the Spectre from BikeRushOwnz is the Vertigo. Missing those bombs, I think, a little bit there, as the Spectres come over to the right side for Shoktrepet. Redeemer takes a lot of damage. It may not be able to actually escape as the Vertigos come in and go for the kill. Goodbye as the Redeemer gets eliminated, and the Venom's cutting down those Spectres, stopping their long-range attacks. Two more avatars stomping in. Shoktrepet desperately trying to find an angle, but the GG gets called. Shoktrepet has been defeated, and BikeRushOwnz wins the mirror-only tournament 5-3. Shoktrepet on the cusp of being able to take us to the ace match, but not able to make it happen. BikeRushOwnz running away with the economy that game, and that is where those two bases ran out for Shoktrepet, and BikeRushOwnz just rocketed ahead. Shoktrepet had nothing that he could do to try and stay even in that game. Every single graph diverging in the favor of BikeRushOwnz. At the end of the day, Bike takes the tournament, and Shoktrepet shows us a fantastic second-place finish in Guaspari's Mirror Only. Thank you all very much for watching. What a great event this was. A solid round of games pretty much every time, and that will do it for this video, for this event, for this tournament. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is Sybert, signing out.